Ellen is nothing but a pathetic fool. Next month, she's out for good. She has no idea what's about to hit her. The voice in the video hit like a thunderclap. Daniel Carter, the man who held power over me for 2 long decades. I glared at my phone screen, my fingers icy against the edges, ready for what was coming next. The video, a mere 30 seconds, captured Daniel at the company's annual staff party, whiskey glass clutched tightly, surrounded by a sea of laughter. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. My co-workers, those I had trusted for years, laughed while others looked away. Not a single soul stood up for me. Liam, the junior analyst I once guided, sent me the video late last night. A betrayal brewing in the shadows. The message was brief, but it packed a punch. You need to see this before Monday. Trust me. A searing, bitter sensation clawed at my throat. 2 decades of loyalty, and I was reduced to a punchline. They'll regret underestimating me. I watched the video again, Daniel's words echoing in my mind, fueling the fire within me. She's utterly blind, convinced she can't be replaced. Prepare yourself. Next month, a new player will take her spot, and she won't know what hit her. I poured my soul into this company. Endless nights, forgotten birthdays, weekends wasted just to boost Daniel's image in front of clients. I shielded him from the fallout, silenced the critics, and stood by him when doubt clouded the air. What do I get back? A betrayal that cut to the core, leaving me gasping for air. Sleep eluded me that night. Instead, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind a storm of fury, shame, and a burning desire for payback. Something ruthless, unyielding resolve. At 7:55 a.m. sharp, I stormed into the office, just like every other day. My heartbeat thundered. My face, you'll remember it. Just wait. Unyielding. Daniel underestimated me. He thought I'd march to my own demise without a fight. He was about to discover just how mistaken he was. The office crackled with a tense, electric energy, ready for the storm brewing beneath the surface. Phones scream, keyboards pound, the acrid scent of burnt coffee lingers like a bitter memory. Daniel's office door stood ajar, an invitation laced with betrayal. He lounged in his chair, laughter echoing with Mark, the CFO, but beneath the surface, a storm brewed, waiting for its moment to strike. I halted in the doorway, heart racing. Play it cool. Morning, Daniel, I said with a smirk that masked my fury. His eyes shot to me, burning with a fierce intensity. No more second-guessing. Regret. Never. Only the fire of vengeance burns within. Absolutely not, it's pure arrogance. He grinned, masking the storm brewing inside him. Ellen, did you enjoy your weekend? Or was it just another reminder of what you lost? I nodded, a storm brewing inside me. Epic weekend. Ready to rise and conquer this month, fueled by the fire of what was taken from me. He grinned, a glint of malice in his eyes. That's the kind of talk I crave. Oh, I know it is. I spun around and stormed to my desk. The game was on. For 4 weeks, I wore the mask of the ideal employee, biding my time, plotting my comeback. I smiled in meetings, but inside I plotted my comeback. I presented my answers. I embraced the challenge. I lingered long after everyone else had gone. But deep down, I was gathering every piece for my reckoning. Emails, contracts, financial reports, mundane details that hide the storm brewing beneath the surface. I reconsidered it all, and I ensured that someone else felt it just as deeply. I contacted my old clients, the ones who had stood by me through it all. Never Daniel. I hinted at new opportunities, and the response was instant. They wanted to know more. I contacted a corporate attorney, setting the stage for a strike that would wound Daniel deeply. His pride and his fortune. I made the bold move to contact a rival, a relentless predator, stalking Carter and Phillips for months, waiting to snatch their finest talent away. I was breaking free. I was reclaiming everything he thought he could dismiss. I showed up before dawn, ready to face the end. Daniel still hadn't spilled the truth. He believed he could surprise me, luring me into his office with HR, ready to deliver his hollow speech about restructuring and budget cuts. Little did he know, I was ready for him. He thought he was safe, but I was already one step ahead. He thought he was in control, but I was already plotting his downfall. By day's end, he would see the truth. The real fool was him. I watched Daniel from across the office, a smile plastered on my face, hiding the fury raging within. He strutted with arrogance, laughing with Mark, oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond the horizon. He believed he had triumphed. Today, I was ready to unleash my fury. This was the day his world would shatter, and I would be the one to make it happen. The day dragged on, just like any other, but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Emails, meetings, reports, pretending everything's fine. But beneath it all, the storm brews. But I knew it all too well. The air crackled with tension, eyes boring into me, hushed tones slipping through glass doors, fleeting glances when they thought I was oblivious. I played it cool, gliding through the day, unaware of the storm brewing just ahead. If they thought they'd see tears, desperation, or pleading, they were in for a rude awakening. At exactly 3 p.m., I watched Denise from HR stride into Daniel's office, her expression a mask of calm, hiding the storm brewing beneath. She turned away, refusing to meet my gaze. Moments later, my phone blazed to life. "Daniel Carter, you better be in my office at 3:30. This is your last chance." It stood there, a reminder of everything lost. I took a deep breath, rising with purpose, my blouse straightened with defiance. The moment had arrived. I slammed the door open, stepping inside with a smirk that masked my fury. Denise glared at Daniel, the company folder a mere prop in this game of vengeance. Just another rule to follow. I had witnessed this betrayal before. Never again will I be the target. Daniel donned a mask of false sympathy, ready to strike. "Ellen, sit down, we need to talk. I did it. Your loyalty to this company for 20 years is noted, but remember, every action has its consequences." He started, his voice steady, as if rehearsing lines for a final act. "But the game has changed, and we've been forced to make ruthless choices about our team." I nodded, feigning surprise, but inside, I was seething with the truth they dared not see. "Your role is being eliminated. We've made our decision and there's no turning back." Daniel pressed on, unyielding. "We're cutting ties, but don't think for a second we won't pay you off handsomely for your exit." Denise slammed the folder onto the table, a silent declaration of war. I swear I didn't lay a finger on it. Relief flickered on Daniel's face, but it wouldn't last. The storm was coming. He craved a response. He braced for fury, desperation, chaos. I smiled, but inside, a storm brewed. "I get it," I replied, my voice steady but simmering. A moment of doubt flashed in his eyes. He barely broke a sweat, not enough chaos. He swallowed hard. "Return the laptop and access badge by day's end. No exceptions. And naturally, we required you to sign a non-disclosure agreement about company operations." "Absolutely." They thought they could silence me, but they were wrong. I remained silent, but the storm within me brewed stronger. Waiting. Stewing. Then Daniel leaned in, his voice a low whisper charged with intensity. I tilted my head, a smirk creeping onto my lips. "This decision is set in stone, isn't it?" Daniel blinked, a spark of fury igniting within him. "Absolutely, without a doubt." "Absolutely perfect," I declared. "Time to finish this. The end is near." Daniel nodded, his impatience palpable, ready to settle the score. "Your professionalism is noted, but don't think it goes unchallenged." I stood, gripping the folder tightly, and shot them a smile that masked the storm brewing inside. As I stepped out of that office, the burden of 2 decades shattered, leaving only the thrill of vengeance in its wake. Now I was unleashed, ready to watch it all turn to ash. I wasted the afternoon playing their game, but they have no idea what's coming next. Gathering my belongings, ready to unleash the storm. Grinning at the enemy, delivering sharp farewells. Another one bites the dust. But in the shadows, I was orchestrating the final moves of my scheme. Before I vanished for good, I meticulously saved every email, every project file, every client contract I could get my hands on. They won't forget me that easily. It was all above board, right up until the final hour, but I won't forget how it felt to be betrayed. Finally, I fired off a final email. Not to Daniel, but to the one who holds the power. The one that fueled 40% of our company's success. It was fleeting, unyielding. "Hey, Richard, your partnership has been noted, but the time for gratitude has passed. As I prepare to leave Carter and Phillips, know this, I'll be ready to consult soon. Watch your back. I'm ready to fight for your company's success. Let's talk about how I can keep pushing us forward. Ready to talk? Just say the word." I pressed send, and the world shifted. Just that email, deadlier than any courtroom battle. At precisely 5 p.m., I stepped out of the building, never to return. I refused to glance back. Daniel was blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to hit. The morning after I left, my phone buzzed, shattering the silence with a promise of reckoning. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Unfamiliar call. I had known all along. I let the call ring out, sinking back into my pillows, plotting my next move. A smile creeping in, dark and dangerous. Daniel was on the brink of understanding the true depth of his error. I thought I had time, but the fallout hit faster than I could brace myself. Daniel's arrogance had pushed everything into overdrive. By 10 a.m., Carter and Phillips had already tried to reach me 3 times. They won't get away with this. And by noon, it all changes. A message from Liam. Liam, you will pay for what you've done. Ellen, whatever chaos you unleashed, the office is burning down. Richard Miller has just betrayed us, severing ties without a second thought. Daniel is unraveling. I cackled with fury. Richard Miller, the CEO of our biggest client, the one I had reached out to with that seemingly harmless email on my last day, had unmistakably sensed the impending storm. Not a chance, Ellen. Chaos reigns. I'm done. It's time for payback. For 20 years, Daniel thought he could overlook me. He underestimated my worth. But the truth? I was the force that kept it all from shattering. What now? That glue vanished, leaving nothing but a burning desire for retribution. Another call at 2:30 p.m. The clock ticks and vengeance brews. This time I struck back. Hello, I said, my voice steady but laced with a simmering intensity. A fierce breath escapes. Then Ellen will pay. Daniel's voice was a steel trap, barely contained. I just heard about Richard. He said you tried to contact me. I did. I said it and I meant it. A moment hangs heavy. Daniel never expected me to be this unfazed. Listen, he pressed on, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. There's been a serious misunderstanding. Richard believed you were abandoning us for another place. He trembled in fear. I'm ready to set the record straight. Ah, there it is. He thought I'd clean up his chaos. I sat back, pen spinning, plotting my next move. Daniel, I commanded, voice sharp. You spread lies, calling me a worthless fool, thinking I wouldn't see your betrayal coming. Why do you want me back now? Silence screams. A void filled with unspoken fury. His breath hitched. He understood my unspoken words all too well. Ellen, he began once more, his voice deliberate, laced with tension. That was just a game, but now the stakes have changed. I interrupted, my tone laced with a chilling edge. A quick, fierce breath escaped him. I don't hold grudges, Daniel, but you'll wish I did. I make choices that hit hard and leave a mark. Richard crossed the line. I heard him grind his teeth, a storm brewing beneath the surface. Are you a pawn in someone else's game? Desperation clawed at me, relentless and unforgiving. He thought he could predict my next move. He was dead wrong. I grinned, a fire igniting within me. That has nothing to do with you. A deafening void. Think twice, Ellen. This is a dangerous game. Our connections run deep in this industry. Ah, the reckoning. He thought he could scare me. He believed he was in control. That was his fatal error. I hung up and sprang into action, no time to lose. I yanked out my notes, eyes blazing as I scanned my list. Daniel was merely the beginning of my reckoning. For 4 long weeks, I plotted in silence, striking deals with his fiercest rivals. The companies he pretended to dismiss, the ones that haunted his thoughts, yet he relentlessly sought to sabotage with lower prices. One stood out, drawn to what I could unleash. At 4 p.m., I stormed into a sleek office downtown, met by a receptionist who already knew my name. The game was on. 5 minutes later, I faced Nathan Pierce, the ruthless CEO of Sterling and Company. I'll be honest, Nathan said, leaning forward, his eyes blazing with intensity. The second I caught wind of your departure from Carter and Phillips, my team was on high alert. Today's news seals Daniel's fate. His ship is going down, and I'll be watching every moment of it. I shot him a knowing smile, a silent promise of what was to come. So you think you can exploit that? He grinned wickedly. I will ensure we both emerge victorious. I saw it coming from a mile away. I craved more than just a job. I craved power. I yanked out the file I had meticulously crafted. These, I declared, pushing it across the table, are the projections forged from my insight into Carter and Phillips's clients, their looming renewals, and the cracks in their current contracts. This is your launchpad for vengeance. Nathan flipped through the pages, a fierce grin spreading across his face as satisfaction coursed through him. Then he dared to meet my gaze. I know there's a catch to this. Nothing comes without a price. I grinned, a fire igniting within me. Absolutely not. His grin stretched, a sinister promise lurking beneath. Time to settle the score. When I walked out of that office, victory was mine. I was stepping into a battlefield. I was dragging Carter and Phillips' clients along for the ride. By next week, Daniel would face far worse than losing contracts. He was going to bleed out, and it would be glorious. And the sweetest revenge, he was blissfully unaware. Daniel was on the brink of discovering the depths of his own terror. Come Monday morning, the storm unleashed its fury. As soon as Carter and Phillips welcomed clients, a storm of termination notices crashed into their inboxes. 3 major clients, the ones I had fought for and nurtured, chose to betray me and abandon ship. Sterling and Company struck hard and fast, quicker than Daniel ever saw coming. And what about me? I stood there, a silent witness as chaos erupted on the battlefield before me. At 8:15 a.m., Liam's message hit like a thunderclap. What the hell, Ellen? Daniel burst into the main office, fury radiating from him. He appears haunted, eyes heavy with sleepless nights. He's on the edge, ready to explode. I grinned wickedly. Perfect. Daniel had been utterly convinced of his own invincibility. They thought I was just another pawn to be discarded. But today, he was discovering that losing me was a devastating blow he never saw coming. It was a disaster waiting to unfold. By 9 a.m., the fractures were screaming for vengeance. Mark, the CFO, locked himself in his office, furiously calculating the extent of the destruction. The weight of betrayal hung heavy in the air, fueling his resolve for retribution. Legal was in a frenzy, hunting for a crack in the contracts to ensnare the escaping clients once and for all. And Daniel. He will pay. Daniel was relentless, dialing every executive he knew, fighting tooth and nail to keep them from leaving. But the moment had slipped away, and vengeance brewed in the shadows. The whispers were igniting. Clients were finally waking up to the chaos that Carter and Phillips had unleashed. And the most gut-wrenching part, Daniel felt the weight of betrayal, searching for someone to hold accountable. At noon, my phone blared. Unfamiliar call, I responded. Ellen, Daniel's voice cut through, tight and charged with tension. I reclined in my chair, plotting my next move. Daniel, what brings you here? I hope you're ready for what's coming. He let out a fierce breath. What lies have you spread? This is a serious issue, and I won't let it slide. I raised an eyebrow, knowing he'd never see it coming. Oh, really? What kind of betrayal? You know exactly what I mean. He shattered. Miller's out of the picture. 3 major accounts have abandoned ship. This isn't over. Millions vanished in an instant, leaving nothing but fury in their wake. Give it to me straight. Did you really think you could get away with it? He held back, but the fire inside him burned brighter. He was forced to say it. Did I plan this all along? I held the silence, watching him squirm, savoring every moment of his discomfort. Then I spoke with a fierce calm, every word laced with intent. I'm done with Carter and Phillips, Daniel. Your company's fate, not my problem. A moment hangs heavy. Then came the reckoning. So you're with Sterling now, huh? His voice sliced through the air. I grinned, a fire igniting within me. That has nothing to do with you. Daniel seethed silently, fury bubbling beneath the surface. You're about to regret this, Ellen. This industry is a tight-knit web. Don't let the flames consume your path. I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Daniel, you set fire to that bridge the instant you stood there at that party, labeling me a worthless dumbass in front of everyone. You'll regret that moment. Silence screams. A void filled with unspoken fury. And then, finally, I caught it in his voice. Rage. He knew everything. This was fate's cruel hand. This was me, standing tall amidst the chaos, ready to reclaim what was taken. He sat at his desk, the weight of his mistakes crashing down. Power was slipping away and the truth hit him hard. He had gravely underestimated me. And that, just wait, you'll see. This is only the start. At 3 p.m., Liam strikes again with another update. They just summoned an emergency board meeting. Let the reckoning begin. The investors are losing it. Whispers of Daniel's downfall echo through the air. A wave of satisfaction crashed over me. Because of that, it was all part of my scheme from the start. Daniel always played the fool, cloaked in my hard work, my relentless drive. But the mask is slipping and the reckoning is near. But now, the tables have turned. The harsh reality was finally laid bare, and in the ruthless game of business. Uncertainty and lost revenue are the silent assassins of a CEO reign. The following morning, I executed my last strike. I stepped into Carter and Phillips, not as a worker, but as a reckoning. Silence hung heavy in the air, a prelude to the storm brewing beneath the surface. The familiar spark had vanished, leaving only a suffocating tension that could slice through the air. Eyes followed me, whispers slicing through the air like daggers. They knew everything. They all knew the truth, and now they would pay. Finally, I stood before Daniel's office. I pounded on the door. Step inside, the voice barked, laced with a simmering fury. I walked in, heart pounding, ready for what was to come. Daniel slumped at his desk, tie askew, shadows of exhaustion etched beneath his eyes. His relentless arrogance vanished. I slammed the door shut and sat down across from him, echoing the moment from just a week ago when he tossed me aside. "What's up, Daniel?" I demanded fiercely. His jaw tightened, a storm brewing within. "Enough of your nonsense, Ellen. What do you really want from me?" I tilted my head, ready for what was coming next. I wanted to know how you were holding up. "Just curious, really." He unleashed a harsh, mocking laugh. "Oh, you know exactly how I'm feeling." I grinned, a fire igniting within me. I did it. He inhaled sharply. "Tell me, what will it take to set this straight? I'm ready for whatever it takes." There it was, finally, the agony. They gave up, but I won't. This is just the beginning. I leaned in, my voice a whisper, but the steel behind it was undeniable. "This can't be repaired, Daniel." His expression turned to stone. "You believe you've triumphed." I stood, my blazer taut against my resolve. I refuse to accept defeat. I know I have. And I won't forget it. As I stepped out of his office for the last time, I paused, turned, and unleashed the words that would haunt him forever. "Relish every moment of your downfall, Daniel." And with that, I turned my back, leaving him to crumble in the ashes of the empire he believed was invincible. Daniel believed he could control the chaos. He believed a handful of calls, some feeble damage control, and a few hollow promises could stem the tide. He was wrong. By the week's end, Carter and Phillips were not merely bleeding, they were drowning in their own consequences. It was bleeding out. The world was glued to the screen, witnessing the chaos unfold before their eyes. Friday morning shattered with the headlines. Clients are fleeing Carter and Phillips in droves, CEO in the crosshairs, Sterling and Coa. No mercy. Just vengeance. Seizes crucial clients in a daring power play. Is this where C&P meets its reckoning? Change is coming, and it's going to be explosive. Investors turn their backs on Daniel Carter, betrayal stinging like a dagger. Every business journal, corporate blog, and financial analyst was fixated on it. And what about me? I sat in my shiny new office at Sterling & Co. Coffee in hand, relishing the sight of Daniel's empire, built on arrogance and my sweat collapsing into nothingness. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed, shattering the silence like a gunshot. "Liam will pay for what he did. You won't see this coming. Investor showdown. Time to settle the score. Word is they're pushing Daniel out. They'll regret it." I reclined in my chair, a smirk creeping across my face. Perfectly timed. At 1 p.m., the board summoned an emergency meeting. The air crackled with tension, and vengeance loomed large. Every last senior executive, all the heavyweights. And of course, Daniel, you thought you could escape the consequences, didn't you? The reckoning is coming. For the past week, he had been descending into chaos, battling flames that only grew stronger with each attempt. The board had heard enough. No more excuses. It was time for reckoning. "Gentlemen," Daniel began, masking his fury with a forced smirk. "Everything seems chaotic, but trust me, I've got a scheme that will turn the tables. Daniel, you will pay for what you've done." A senior board member cut in, their voice slicing through the tension. "We've already confronted the top investors. This is final." The smirk disappeared, replaced by a storm of fury. "Clients are slipping away. Our stock has plummeted 23% and Sterling & Co. has ruthlessly outsmarted us. Do you have any idea of the destruction you've caused?" Daniel's expression turned to stone. "You really believe I'm to blame for this?" A cruel laugh echoed from across the table. "You just let go of the one person who kept this company from falling apart." Another board member shot back, eyes blazing. "Now, she's turning all that she created against you, ready to unleash chaos." Daniel's hands clenched into tight, unyielding fists. He knew everything. He was certain of the one responsible for his pain. And worst of all, he was powerless to change it. At 3 p.m., the storm began with a single internal email. Effective immediately, Daniel Carter has been ousted as CEO of Carter and Phillips Consulting. A new leadership team is on the horizon, and change is coming fast. I absorbed it twice, letting the weight of that moment crush me. Daniel Carter. The name echoes with a promise of reckoning. Outside burned. Shamed for all to see. All he had fought for, shattered in an instant, vanished, and still it fell short. At 5:30 p.m., an email landed in my inbox, igniting a fire within me. By Daniel Carter. Subject: "A reckoning awaits. We need to talk." Now, oh, this is going to be epic. I unleashed it. Ellen, we both know this has spiraled out of control. Unleashed chaos, we may not have always agreed, but our time together was far from forgettable. I see you lurking in the shadows, orchestrating this chaos. It's time to bury the past and rise from the ashes. We need to talk. Furious, too easy to see coming. Weak, I hit reply, and I struck the keys with fury. Daniel, this conversation ends here. I've made it clear. There's no way to mend this. Have a weekend you won't forget. And just like that, I unleashed my fury. Just like that. I shut the door on Daniel Carter's career for good. But what about my story? This is just the start. The storm had finally passed. Daniel Carter was done for good. His empire lay in ruins. His reputation lay in ashes. What about Carter and Phillips? A vessel doomed to the depths, struggling to endure. But what about me? This is only the beginning. On Monday morning, I stormed into Sterling and Company's headquarters, ready to claim my place as their newest senior partner. They had no idea what was coming. A position I had fought for. Not due to office politics, nor because I had played nice with the right crowd. Because I was the greatest and they will pay for underestimating me. Nathan, the CEO, met me in the executive lounge, his handshake like a steel trap. "Welcome aboard, Ellen," he sneered. "I've heard the whispers. Your mark is undeniable." I grinned, a fire igniting within me. "I demand efficiency." He laughed, a sound laced with dark satisfaction. "You're just what we've been waiting for. Those clients you lured in. They believe in you. What truly matters. They're poised for vengeance." I nodded, a surge of long-buried emotions crashing over me. Anticipation ignites. Endless potential, domination. This was personal. This was the beginning of my reckoning. Daniel never knew how to fade away. I should have seen it coming. That afternoon, my assistant dared to knock on my office door. "Ellen," she spat, her voice trembling with fury, "you have a chance to settle the score. This is your moment. Don't hold back. Let the fire within you ignite and unleash the storm. They will regret crossing you. Feel the weight of every betrayal and turn it into your strength. The time for reckoning is now. Intruder." I shot a piercing glance. Who dares to challenge me? She felt the weight of her unease. Daniel Carter. The name echoes with a promise of reckoning. I locked eyes with her, my breath escaping in a heavy sigh. "Bring him in." Moments later, Daniel stormed in, or rather what remained of him. His lavish suits, that arrogant grin, the illusion of invincibility, vanished. His eyes burned with exhaustion, his face a mask of anguish, and for the first time in his life, he seemed insignificant. I reclined in my chair, eyes locked on him, plotting my next move. He stood tall. Silence hung heavy between us. Not yet. At last, a bitter laugh escaped his lips. "You actually went through with it, didn't you?" I tilted my head, a smirk creeping onto my lips. "What did you just say?" His jaw tightened, a storm brewing within. "You shattered my world. I let it slide, knowing he was right all along." "You brought this on yourself, Daniel." He let out a fierce breath. "You caught me off guard." I nodded, a storm brewing inside me. "Absolutely, you did." A heavy silence loomed, thick with unspoken words. Then he unleashed the final words that shattered everything I thought I knew. "I'm ready to fight for a job." I nearly scoffed. So close. I fixed him with a glare that could cut through steel. Daniel Carter. The name echoes with a promise of reckoning. The man who dared to mock me, shamed me, humiliated me in front of everyone, calling me a worthless dumbass. What now? He stood there, pleading, desperation etched on his face. It was a fierce symphony of vengeance. Flawless. In that instant, I had the power to obliterate him. I had the power to break him. He was pulled through the dirt, and now it's time for payback. I gave him a taste of my pain, just a sliver of the torment I endured. But instead, I just stood there, seething, strode up to him, fire in my eyes, and locked eyes with his shattered spirit. "Absolutely not, Daniel," I spoke, my voice steady, yet simmering with fury. "You don't need their approval. Prepare for a reckoning." His eyes burned with fury, silence thickening the air between them. I grinned, a fire igniting within me. Ice runs through my veins. Awareness cuts deep. "Watch your back, Daniel." Then I spun around, stomped back to my desk, fury bubbling beneath the surface. In an instant, I cast him aside. Forever changed. That night, I sat in my new office, eyes locked on the city skyline, plotting my next move. Everything has changed now. After 2 decades, I finally broke free from being just a cog in someone else's machine. I held the reins. That night still burns in my memory, a scar I won't forget. The clip. The laughter echoes, sharp and piercing. Backstabbed. What now? I was more than just Ellen. The expendable pawn, I was Ellen. And now I rise from the ashes, ready to reclaim what's mine, the woman who forged her destiny. The woman who shattered the illusion of loyalty, showing that it should never be wasted on the unworthy. The woman who recognized her power. A smirk crept across my face. I raised my glass of wine, a smirk playing on my lips as I unleashed the words Daniel Carter never anticipated. I triumph.